Well, first of all, let me say that our speaker today is Reverend Sandy, and we're always so happy to have her with us. Yay. And our musician today is Irene Jalenti. And we're so happy to have her as well. She's always a wonderful addition to our service. I'm going to go into a centering prayer at this time. I used this the last time that I was platform assistant. It is a poem called As I Awaken Today in Love by Janine Miller Delaney, and it's in the front of this issue of the Daily Word. So let's all please take just a moment to get settled. May I remember what I am, for I am spirit. May I remember where I am, for I am in the mind of God. May I allow myself to awaken in this natural state, for in my natural state there is no effort at all. And so I arrive in grace each moment, now and in the next, simply as I am, completely whole, safe, and love itself. May I allow the ego mind to remain resting on my bedstand, for I choose to value nothing of myself today, but the love that I am. May I breathe easy, my body relaxed, and each cell awaken to the joy and peace of arriving in grace each moment of this day. And so it is.
I'm going to do a song that everybody knows, and hopefully it'll bring a little bit of light to everybody's day. somewhere over the rainbow way, up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Oh, the dreams that you dare to dream come true. Somewhere over the rainbow, dreams come true. You just have to believe, and they will come true.
My goodness, I'm never sure when you unmute to minister that that's a good thing. Okay. But I say hello to all of you. And Irene, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Beautiful. Just lovely. The sun came out. It hadn't been out all morning over in my place. And just as you began, there she was. So thank you for bringing that sunshine. Yes. Hi, everyone. How are we doing? Of course, I can't hear. I see this. That's good. I'm glad. I'm thrilled to be with you. I know that you can hear me. I can't see all of you, which that's good, probably, because I'd end up probably looking at you and playing Hollywood squares as opposed to doing what I'm here to do today or be today. But I'm always so grateful to be with you. And so today, this morning, I'm going to speak and we're going to co-create, which is always a joy to me, how to be practical in our immortality. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on our immortality in that as a unity principle. You are all very familiar with principle number 2, which says that we are a spark of the divine. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to keep taking it in my ministry a lot further than spark of the divine. We are divine. And I believe as we move forward, and certainly as I move forward in what I'm here to do, I want to do the work of understanding the divinity, the individualized expression, and exactly how am I going to allow that to play out in my life. And the key word in that is allow. And so one of the items that we're going to talk about this morning is practical immortality. And let's be mindful of that word as it relates to allowing. Many of us right now, front and center, will say, oh gosh, I thought she was going to talk about practical mortality. No, only as it relates to immortality. I think we get enough of practical mortality in the human lives that we live every day, all day. In fact, I believe that sometimes that mortality and the binding that we bring upon ourselves in our mortality separates us from spirit, and it sometimes doesn't make room for the hugeness of our immortality. And so that's where I'm attempting to go here today. I'm basing some of my talk this morning, some of you like to know this, on the Deepak Chopra book I've been working with called MetaHuman. I spoke using that volume the last time I spoke, last month. I'm also using an interview with a man by the name of Michael Singer. And Michael Singer, some of you may know because he's written The Untethered Soul. And if you can get a copy of that for yourself, along with MetaHuman, these are kinds of materials that I like to bring to you that if you know about, great, because you will continue to co-create even here this morning with me. And if you don't, it might be something that's of interest to you as you develop your own look into what is this thing called practical immortality. So let's break it down just a little. Well, the other thing I'm going to use, and this is key because I don't want to forget this, and that is an email that I received from Cheryl after I spoke last month. And it dovetails beautifully with what we're going to speak about and move in and through this morning, as does, I noticed, the daily word and the music and the centering prayer. It is right in front of us, the work that we are doing, the spiritual journey that we're going to be part of this morning. So if some of you don't even remember what was the daily word this morning or what was the affirmation, find it, read it again, and make it mean something to what we're going to do and how you're going to live your life today, and not just another date in the daily word. It's very meaningful. And every single one of all 34 of you showed up for a reason today. And I like to make it a point of that. And I know this is preface to what we're going to do, but you could be doing a whole lot of other things besides being here this morning. So you came with a mission. You came to co-create. And when we talk about co-creating, that is not just sitting back and listening. And yet, of course, it is listening. It's all about allowing for the listening in our lives. So practical immortality, just if I'm going to use Chopra's language, is a special state of awareness. And it's the awareness that we talk about as God consciousness. Let's call it that, as we use in Unity. Some of us use God, some of us don't. Some of us use consciousness, spirit, mind. But when we are in a state of practical immortality, we are in a significantly different awareness of what life is about and who we are and our divinity. And we allow for that. And what I'm asking you this morning is to start considering, I'm inviting you to start considering practical immortality as a way of life. And some of you may say, well, I strive for that. And yes, I believe that you do, or you wouldn't even be here listening and co-creating. What I'm asking you to do is up the ante. It's practical immortality all the time, 24/7. It isn't just in this time today, although this today can be a, Cheryl, were you waving at me? No, okay. It isn't just for this moment. In other words, to live a life of practical immortality is to live a life of inspiration, is to live a life of freedom, to know no boundaries, and to know no suffering. Now, some of you may already be saying, what do you mean no suffering? Are we not suffering right now? Is this pandemic? Is this economic downturn? Are these not forms of suffering? They are forms of suffering if you name them that. And that is coming from your mortality. That comes from when we separate and we allow the mind to do its bait. I call it its bait and switch. The mind, which many people refer to, in Unity you've heard it, monkey mind, is incredibly active and highly creative. And if we allow our living in our minds, we start to name things. Some of you may say, well, of course, I live in my mind every day. Yes, and think about that. Please do think about that. I'm asking you to live in your immortality and to live from that essence of the divinity of who you are, and not give so much, as we are taught in our culture, credence to the mortality, to the thought, to the thinking mind. And I'm going to give you some examples from Michael Singer, because I thought they were pretty funny, and I ran across them kind of at the 11th hour. And he says, you know, he's coming from this preface, just so you know. He wants us, and he's putting forth the idea of knowing the one who hears the voice that's the monkey mind. And so he says, you know that voice inside your head, the one you talk with nonstop as your day unfolds? Some of the chatter is simply restating the obvious, making note of all you experience. And here's a couple of examples. Gosh, those tulips are stunning. I wonder how old that giant cottonwood is. Why would someone buy a chartreuse car with so many other options available? Where did I put that to-do list? Maybe I should clean my kitchen today. Harmless chatter naturally occurring for each of us. In case you haven't noticed, says Singer, you have a mental dialogue going on inside your head that never stops. It just keeps going and going. Have you wondered why it talks in there? How does it decide to say and when to say it? How much of it says what it says turns out to be true? I really hadn't thought of my mind that way. Yes, I've called it a monkey mind. Yes, I've said even to myself, please shut up today, Sandra. I've named it. What he's saying is be mindful of the one, the essence, the divinity who is observing the monkey mind, not the monkey mind. And that is a way I am offering to you an invitation to, in our practical mortality, to learn to understand how best to receive and speak to the mind that we call monkey mind, that we have given to, as many thinkers, philosophers have said, far too much information and authority. That the monkey mind will just go on and on and on, and we will become trapped in that mind. As opposed to understanding we have a full-time observer, God, essence, self with a capital S, observing and knowing the monkey mind is going a little bit off the back 40. Now, this happens even in the good monkey mind times. Most of us associate monkey mind with we're having a trauma, or someone in our life is having a trauma, and we just go off the deep end and we can't quite seem to get our act back together. Monkey mind happens, as you saw from Singer's example, all the time. It's up to us to understand the observer that finally gets to the awakening, which is practical immortality, that the observer is the one who is noticing what's going on with all that chatter. It is the observer that is the essence of who we are. It is the self of who we are. And what the observer does is it doesn't think about the monkey mind. It just notices that the monkey mind is moving. And we have a choice in that observation from that higher level of consciousness we're now calling, I'm calling, and Deepak Chopra, that's his words, practical immortality. If we would learn how to communicate with practical immortality, with the self in us that is the observer, we would know true freedom, true inspiration, and we would not become trapped and separated in that eternal suffering we bring on ourselves when we allow that chatter, that mind chatter, to spin a web, if you will. And I'm going to read again from Singer. He says, true personal growth is about transcending the part of you that is not okay and needs protection. This is done by constantly remembering that you are the one inside that notices the voice talking. That is the way out. It's a doorway to the depths of your being. Come to know the one who watches the voice, and you will come to know one of the great mysteries of creation. Now you say, oh, that sounds pretty good. I hadn't maybe quite thought about it like that. Or, okay, Reverend Sandy, that's nice news. I got that. I've understood that. Well, then the next question, that begs the question, do you use it? Do you make it a part of how you live your life? And that's where I think we have some tweaking to do at the very, very best. I call it tweaking. And maybe not, that's not the best. We have to look at ourselves and how we will just simply lock, stock, and barrel sometimes hand over to old monkey mind our power, our lower selves, the way we function. And we do it often in times of great stress. Sound familiar? Sound like some of the stress you might have been under and feeling, especially these last few months? I'm going to tell you a story that comes from a person that I know. And so I'm giving it to you as I understand it. This person gave birth to a stillborn child last week. And after that process, also found out that there was a sarcoma in one of her limbs, and she is dealing with that now. And here's what I noticed in the people that were associated with her family, and frankly with myself. And that's why I'm sharing it with you. And I don't normally do this. So let's concentrate on the family and myself. We went down the monkey mind road as fast as we knew how creatively. Isn't it awful? Who could go through that? How did God let that happen? She must be feeling so depressed. Do you see how it goes? You see how fast we give it over, and we allow ourselves to separate not only from each other in the essence of who we are. We deny that, but we separate from the essence of who we are. And what we choose to do is band together in this separation, if you will. And I bring that example to you. Yes, it's dramatic. And yes, you can go right there with me if you want to. Some of you may have said to yourself, isn't that horrific? Isn't that awful? Stop. I used it as an example for us to understand and to learn. We have an observer, a sense of self, a divine portion in us that can heal and bring forth our own essence to help in that situation, our essence of the Christ within, who can serve, truly serve all the individuals in question and involved. And what does that take? That takes practice. It takes believing, and this is a key point for all of us. Do you believe that you can work with your own immortality? Do you believe that you have a conversation going 24/7, or can, if you don't right now, with your immortality, with your divinity first? And some will say, yes, I do believe that. And then, of course, we're back to, do you believe it all the time? Or is it a selective kind of belief? And let's face it, I've said this before, but I'm not saying it except this one more time. Well, we're all human, you know. We do slip off the proverbial wagon. And I'm saying, no more. Stop. No more slipping off. No more excusing that. I'm only human. Yes, if you say you're only human, that's exactly what you are, only human. And I refuse to accept that. We are divine. We are divine. And if we learn how to communicate our divinity with ourselves to each other, imagine what we bring to the world: a sense of inspiration, a sense of freedom, a sense of creativity to all facets of our lives and to others' lives, those that we connect and touch with. And Singer calls this our belief in this, of our divinity first and always and foremost, spiritual non-resistance, which I thought was a very interesting term. And the spiritual non-resistance he's actually defining is: let life be life. Do not try and shove it in a box. Do not try and make it something it is not. You can't. Life is life, and allow life to be life. Understanding that that is, my friends, extremely difficult. Many, many days, many, many minutes. But you're not going to change life. All you can do is work with it as it presents itself. And the step above is learn from that. What is presenting? What is there? What is in demonstration for you specifically? What is that? And that allowing, or that kind of even notation, life is here. In Unity, we talk a lot about, well, life showed up to give me this lesson. And I think that's fine. I'm asking you to actually embody that understanding and not throw it out like a Cliff Notes Unity deal, like I do sometimes, like a lot of us do. Life is so enormous that we have been presented in our own individual lives a way of actually knowing that enormity and understanding our enormity, our divinity in that. And that is inspirational, to say the least. And here's a couple of tips on how we do this. And this is where I'm going to encourage this community in particular. You had two iconic leaders in Emalia and in Lafayette. And you know, all of you know, you have heard the teachings that they gave you over the years. I want you to bring them out and think about them again. I'm not asking you to think about anecdotal stories, or you can if you like, but I'm asking you to think about, what did you learn from them? What did they pass on to you? And one of the things that Cheryl brought up in an email that she wrote to me a month ago is the following, and she's given me permission to read this to you, which I have to get my phone open just a second. There it is. She said she had been reading with a friend Tara Brach's Radical Acceptance, and she just finished the book. And the last chapter was about realizing our true nature is really about awareness and mindfulness. By inquiring, and this is a direct quote, and then looking into awareness, we can cut through and dispel the deepest illusions of self that have held us separate and bound. And then she talks about nothingness, and this is what Cheryl said, which Lafayette Seymour used to talk about. Nothingness. It's a challenge, Cheryl said, for me to contemplate ever getting to the place where I function completely from my Christed self. I feel I need to work on it. Might be better if I just allowed myself to evolve it. And that's the essence of what we're speaking about today. Allowing ourselves to let life be life, to evolve, to stop struggling, to stop pushing our spiritual reality and our meta reality into what we think it should be. And part of that is what Deepak calls choiceless awareness. When we are so aware that we are moving through a time in our lives, practical immortality, that we don't need to make sure that all the choices are buttoned up and put in a box. How about we just surrender and allow life to make the choices for us? Have you got choices in front of you? Have you got some things you got to do today? Let's take it down to the basic level. What you got to do today? Okay, maybe some of you are going to watch something on TV, and you've made a choice of it. And some of you have to go someplace, or you have to call someone. Okay, I don't know what your choices are today. How about you just let life make the choice? Oh no, I can't do that. I have to be on time. I have to catch a bus, or the program starts at blah, 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 blah. You see the difference? I'm not asking you to change what you have to do today. I'm asking you to change how you think about what you have to do today. Don't get yourself all jazzed up. How many times have we talked about this in Unity over the years? Now it has a nice name called choiceless awareness, or as Deepak also calls it, the art of not doing. How often do you put any time into choiceless awareness or the art of not doing? I'll bet you less than 10%, and that's my personal guess. I'm asking you to flip the teacup over. Put 90%, if you will. Put 80%. Put a bigger percentage in that box that we all force ourselves to live in called practical mortality. Flip it on its ear and go for it and see what you come up with. Stop trying to figure it out, okay? Sometimes you just have to trust. Oh, there's that word. I know you know about trusting, about surrendering. That's not what this talk is about. That's not what this co-creation about. Do you believe it? Can you have a conversation with your immortal self that observes all? Can you trust in that? Are you trusting in it as we speak? And what exactly does that mean? So while I've given you a couple of examples that are somewhat practical, I just want to, I don't know, make sure that we've come up with a way of communicating both with ourselves and with each other that comes from the immortal, the ever-present freedom of spirit, of God. And so I won't go further with that. I will say this. Singer says the final thought he adds here is, once you're ready to let go of yourself, life becomes your friend, your teacher, your secret lover. When life's way becomes your way, all the noise stops and there's a great peace. All right, my friends. Bless you and thank you. Okay. And now we will go into meditation. And this meditation comes from, her name is Dr. Terry Cole Whitaker, and she's a Christian Science healer and a longtime Unity minister as well. And she calls it God consciousness is all that you need. And so before I move on here, did we have music and I'm talking over it, or no? Okay, thank you. Okay, very fine. Then I'm going to ask you all to do something right now. And it is, I would like you to turn off your videos. Just turn them off, or Jan can, okay? Yeah. And just allow spirit to listen to the voice and to hear the song of the heart. All worry is but illusion, and the result of believing that I am separate from my source. I am always unified with my beloved, as well as with all divine spirit, soul entities, all people, all animals. In this eternal moment of now, all is well and good with me, And I feel gratitude and constant appreciation for my beautiful life, for my world. I allow myself to relax into the arms of the divine, knowing that all my needs are met now. I know I have an eternal spiritual soul body, transcendental, beautiful spirit. I am eternity. I am life. And now, for a few moments, I would ask that you take those words, I am eternity and I am life, and simply be in choiceless awareness, in the art of not doing, of simply being here now. I am eternity. I am life. I align my consciousness with divine consciousness, always for my greatest good and benefit. The kingdom of God is attained simply by recognizing Source isn't going to do anything for you or with you that isn't already being done. Let God be God. Let life be life. I know my intention is a spiritual contract and already being made manifest. And so it is. Thanks be to God. Alleluia. Amen.
I know you guys really love when I use my loop station, so I'm gonna do a song with my voice. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do, nothing to kill or die for, and no hatred too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us, and the world will be as one. Yes, the world will be as one. I know the world could be as one. Oh, oh, oh. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger, a brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I know that I'm not the only one. I know one day you will join us, and the world, yes, the world will be as one. The world will be as one. Finally, the world will be united as one. Can you imagine a world where everybody lives in harmony and everything is peaceful and everything is alright? Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Can you imagine a world like that?
For the closing prayer today, I'm going to use a Sanskrit proverb that I found at the back of a book called Drop the Rock. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lies all the realities and verities of existence. The bliss of growth, the splendor of action, the glory of power. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day, and so it is.